Well, it's another day being stuck in the house because of the coronavirus. And I'm grateful that I'm safe. I'm grateful that my family, friends, and loved ones are safe. But I've been in the house for a while now, and I'm grateful for that. It's really given me an opportunity to think about a lot of different things, particularly about what's going on in the world right now. So many different things going on in the world right now. And at this moment, I've been really thinking about two words. It's been really resonating in my mind, been resonating in my spirit. And the first word that I've been thinking about is privilege. What does it mean? Do I have it? Is it applicable? And I've really been thinking about that word privilege. What is privilege? Does it apply to me? And the way I define privilege is a benefit, an entitlement, or a right. And then I was taking a look in the mirror and asking myself, hey, do you, referring to myself, have privilege? And if I'm honest about it, if I really have an honest conversation with myself, I said, you know what? You do. You do have privilege. For example, I was born in the United States of America. I have a privilege because I'm American. That's my nationality. And because of that, that's a privilege, that's a benefit. If I want to see certain parts of the world, I can visit those parts or that particular country because of my passport. I might not be excluded because of my nationality. And that's a privilege. Then I was saying to myself, what other privileges do I have? Well, I have the privilege, the benefit of being a man. I define myself as a man. And based on my experience, I don't worry about parking my car in a particular place or location. I have never personally experienced sexual harassment, though I recognize that those that male might have. I don't necessarily worry about being raped or domestically abused. That's not to say men have not, because rape is independent of whether someone is a male or female. But for me, being a man, it's a privilege. Then I would say to myself, okay, well, what other privileges do you have? I recognize that I have a privilege of being a native English speaker, and I have a native accent. That is a privilege. Recognizing and realizing that in both personal and professional situations or experiences, that the very fact that I was born by no choice of my own, my mom and my dad, thank you to them, but because I was born in America, I have a native speaking accent, and that is a privilege. Now, when thinking about that, I said to myself, wait a minute, you know what? Okay, privilege is real, privilege exists. I have had certain benefits, certain entitlements, and certain rights. And I personally believe that there is nothing the matter with privilege, as long as I recognize that everybody in the world does not have the same privilege or privileges that I do. Why do I even say that? Well, I was thinking about the fact is, hey, what happens if I was not born in America and I wanted to visit certain parts of the world? I might not be able to do that because I might not even be allowed in a particular country or see other parts of the world. Or if I was, because of my passport, I would be limited to the number of countries that I would be able to see. and that would require a visa. And if I wanted to see it, I could not obtain a visa solely for the purpose of my nationality. I recognized that, hey, that if I was no longer a man and now was a woman, I might experience sexual harassment or sexual innuendos. Maybe if I was teaching on social media, the majority of the comments might be, oh, you're beautiful, I want to have sex with you, I want to marry you, you wear too much makeup, or you don't wear enough makeup at all. Instead of having videos focused on the content that I'm providing, in terms of, and then also in terms of helping learners that want to learn English, they're more focused on the way I look and what I could possibly do for them, or their sexual fantasies in their mind for what actually I'm trying to do. What happens if I wasn't born in the United States and have a native speaking accent and I'm trying to learn the language? And having a native accent is considered the standard or the norm. And how ironic it is that I focus most of my content that says, hey, focus on your fluency, focus on your pronunciation, but yet we have people in the industry, and they can do what they want, that says, hey, learn to sound like a native, reduce your accent. That is a privilege. And again, for me, there's nothing the matter with privilege, but during this moment, particularly in this moment in time, I have to realize that everybody does not have the same privilege that I do. Privilege is real. Privilege exists. Why do I say that? Well, based on my own experience and based on the experience of others, let's look at the ESL industry. English within the industry and also by the learners is defined as a particular type. And that type is based on where a person lives, where they're from, what is their gender, and even, yes, ladies and gentlemen, one's race and one's ethnicity. And that does not negate or diminish the struggle that any content provider, anybody on social media has. But facts are facts. There's been research done and stories shared that, hey, if you go to this particular country, they only want a teacher that looks in a particular color or a particular gender. We hear stories of learners that are just saying, hey, I'm trying to learn English, but I was denied a job. Or I was told you should speak more like a native, speak more British, speak more American, speak more Canadian, because I don't understand you. So for me, privilege exists. It's real. If the ESL industry is nothing more than a microcosm of the whole wide world, then did I think, or was I naive to think, or maybe you were naive to think that those privileges didn't exist within our own industry? So that's one word that I've been thinking of, privilege. And the other word that I've been thinking about is empathy. What is empathy? Well, I define empathy as the ability to put myself in someone else's shoes, to imagine the experience of someone that did not live my particular life, or didn't have the experiences that I do. When I think about empathy, I think about compassion, understanding, listening. And so maybe this for me is an opportunity that I am thinking about privilege, empathy, and how I might move forward to be more human and to recognize that everybody doesn't have the same experiences that I do. Now, those are things that I've been thinking about. I've asked myself the question, and maybe you, by listening to this video, you have an opportunity to ask yourself, do you have privilege? Have you recognized your privilege? Some people recognize their privilege, and some people don't. Some people haven't even thought about that. Why? Because they haven't experienced it. They haven't experienced being the other. And that's not right, and that's not wrong. At least for me, it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to think about how can I, as one human being who's in the ESL industry, make this industry and make humanity a better place. Those are things that I've been thinking about. Privilege, empathy. Maybe you'll think about it too. The choice is yours. This is Teacher Will. Motivation, inspiration through English. Hopefully, we learn together.